I'm Alex. I'm 32 years old, and for the past 6 years, I've been something of a silent patron saint to my extended family's version of stability. Not because I'm wealthy or wildly successful, but because I got good, really good, at managing money. I landed a solid tech job out of state, kept my head down, and lived within my means. Somewhere along the way, that turned me into the unofficial treasurer of every minor disaster and major delusion my family had. It started innocently enough. A phone bill here. A forgotten school trip there. A few $100 sent with a "no problem" and a smiley emoji. But generosity has a funny way of becoming expectation. Before I realized what had happened, I was paying monthly rent for my brother's family, covering car insurance for a vehicle I'd never even seen, helping pay tuition for a niece I barely saw more than once or twice a year, and constantly putting out the fire of emergency credit card debt that was apparently permanent. I wasn't trying to be a martyr. I honestly thought I was doing what family does, lifting each other up when they're down. But there's a fine line between helping and being used. And last weekend, that line finally lit up in neon. I flew home thinking I was coming for my mom's birthday. That's what the text said. I even paid for my own flight, booked a modest Airbnb since my old bedroom had been converted into some sort of arts and crafts hoarder's paradise. I bought my 14-year-old niece Emma a designer purse she'd been manifesting via passive-aggressive Instagram stories, tagging me in each one like some bizarre, modern ritual. I knew it was manipulative. But I told myself maybe she was just a kid trying to fit in. Maybe she didn't know any better. I wish that had been true. The moment I walked into the backyard, I knew something was off. The balloons, the DJ, the massive cake with "Congratulations, Emma," piped in pink cursive. This wasn't a party for my mom. It was a full-blown, no-expense-spared celebration for Emma getting into a private arts high school, one that costs more per semester than what I paid for my entire college degree. And I had helped make it happen. I'd written her recommendation letter, paid for the prep courses, even chipped in for the portfolio materials. But my name wasn't on the slideshow. I wasn't in the speeches. I wasn't even mentioned. Instead, my brother James held court with a red cup in one hand and a smug grin on his face, telling everyone about all the sacrifices they'd made to get Emma into the school. His wife, Trina, was dabbing fake tears while pretending she personally coached Emma through the entire process. And me? I had no idea the party was even happening. I'd barely crossed the patio when someone handed me a drink and told me to smile for the family photo. I stood there, grinning like I'd just won a prize, the same forced expression I wore at family weddings and reunions I wasn't invited to but paid for anyway. James clapped me on the back, hard. "Look who finally showed up," he said. Just in time for the toast. Then Emma walked over, dressed like an Instagram influencer mid-Coachella. She looked me up and down and said, "You're only invited because you pay for everything." Half the family laughed. A few looked away. James chuckled. "He knows his role, right, Alex?" And right there, standing with a drink in my hand, music pulsing behind me, and my niece flaunting the purse I bought her like it was a trophy, I went completely, utterly still. Not angry. Not sad. Just done. The rest of the night was a blur. Fake hugs. Hollow compliments. Not one person asked how I was doing, how work was going, or even where I was staying. I was a background character in a party I accidentally funded. When the music got louder, I slipped inside, walked past the dining room table piled with gifts, grabbed my laptop, and sat in a quiet corner of the living room. I wasn't furious, I was focused. I opened my banking app and started flipping switches. The joint account I'd set up to help James with temporary car payments? Closed. The pre-authorized tuition payments for Emma's new school? Cancelled. One by one, I turned off every autopay, Netflix, cell phones, utilities, rent. I emailed the property manager. The power company. Even the subscription box service Emma used for her overpriced makeup. Each message ended with a polite variation of, "This arrangement is no longer supported." Then I pulled a plain white envelope from my bag, slipped in a folded paper I'd prepared weeks ago, an itemized list of every payment I'd made on their behalf over the last 5 years. Over $112,000. At the bottom, in my cleanest handwriting, I wrote, "This ends today. Alex." I placed the envelope on the kitchen table and walked out. No one noticed. The next morning, my phone buzzed 47 times in 10 minutes. James. Mom. Trina. Emma. I didn't open a single message. By the time they found the envelope, I was boarding my flight home. That's when the voicemail started. James went first, trying to sound diplomatic. "Hey Alex, got your little note. Kinda dramatic, don't you think? If you had concerns, you could have just called me, man. Don't make a scene. Call me back." Then Trina, her voice cracking like she'd either been crying or was preparing to. "Alex, I don't understand why you'd do this. Emma's devastated. You know what this does to her emotional stability? We trusted you." By noon, the tone had shifted. James again, yelling. "You think you can just walk away? Emma starts school in 2 weeks. You don't get to have a meltdown and screw everything up." By the end of the day, their messages sounded less like outrage and more like desperate pitches to an investor they assumed was bluffing. I wasn't. I shut off my phone, requested a mental health leave from work, and finally took a vacation. My first in 4 years. The quiet that followed was strange. Peaceful. For the first time in years, I wasn't calculating whether I could afford someone else's mistake. I wasn't skipping doctor's appointments or delaying my own plans so James could pretend his freelance photography career was something other than a convenient excuse. But peace doesn't last in my family. 2 days later, my mom called. I didn't answer. Her voicemail was predictable. "Alex, sweetheart, there's been a misunderstanding. Your brother's under a lot of stress. Emma's in a critical developmental stage. Don't punish everyone over one comment. You're better than that." That line stuck with me. Not because I believed it, but because I realized what she meant. Not better morally. Better as in, be the bigger person. Better as in, don't fight back. Better as in, keep paying and don't complain. She never once asked how I was doing. A week passed. Then 2. My inbox filled with overdue notices from utilities and tuition bills. The lease I'd co-signed was now in default. Emma's school sent polite reminders. I ignored them all. Then came the email that broke through. From Emma. Subject, wow. Rude. No greeting. No punctuation. Just, you said you'd always be there. Guess that was a lie. Don't worry, we'll figure it out. Since you clearly think you're better than everyone. Blocked. I stared at the screen, more stunned than hurt. Not by what she said, but by how entitled it was. Written from a phone I paid for, in a house I'd helped keep, after a party I'd accidentally funded. I almost laughed. Instead, I logged into one last account, a cloud drive I'd set up for the family. I changed the password. The recovery email. Left one file, a scanned PDF titled, "You're welcome." Inside, every receipt I'd kept over 6 years. Every dollar, every gift, every bailout. At the bottom, a one-man bank only stays open when it's respected. No one replied. But I know they saw it. A few days later, James showed up at my door. I hadn't told anyone where I lived, but a cousin had visited once and apparently let it slip. I watched him through the peephole. He didn't knock. Just placed a wrinkled envelope on the mat and walked away. Inside was a note. Don't forget who made you. You don't just walk out on family. You'll come crawling back. You always do. No signature. That night, I changed my locks, packed a bag, and scheduled a lawyer to untangle me from anything still legally connected to them. Then came one final call. Not from James. Not my mom. Emma's school. The principal. Alex, she asked, her voice cautious. Emma listed you as her emergency contact. Her parents aren't answering. There was an incident. I didn't speak. I waited. She had a meltdown. Crying, pacing, said you cut her off to punish her. Tore up her sketchbooks. Said nothing mattered if she wasn't going to school. My chest didn't fill with guilt. Just a dull ache. Not because I felt responsible, but because I understood what had happened. I had become her only constant. The only proof someone cared. She's not in danger, the principal said, but she asked for you. If you can call her, even just once, I think it would help. That night, I sat in my apartment, alone but calm. I pulled out an old journal filled with goals, budget plans, independence timelines. On one page, I'd written, "Don't bleed out trying to be someone else's tourniquet." They hadn't been drowning. They'd been comfortable. But Emma wasn't James. And that, right there, was the knot I couldn't untie. The next morning, I called her. She picked up after a few rings. "Uncle Alex?" I leaned back in my chair. "Hey, kid." A pause. Then, "Why'd you stop talking to us?" I could have lied. Blamed work. Said I needed space. But I didn't. Because no one treated me like family, I said. They treated me like a bank account. She was quiet. I added, "Not you. Not always. You were just raised in it." She whispered, "I didn't mean what I said. I was trying to sound cool." Dad laughed. "I thought you would too." "Emma," I said gently, "you don't have to be cruel to feel important." Then she cracked. "Everything's falling apart. Dad's yelling, Mom cries in the car. They say we're gonna lose the house. They blame you." "Of course they did. They said you left us because you don't love us anymore." "No," I said. "I didn't leave because I stopped loving anyone. I left because I started loving myself." She sobbed. "I miss you." "I know." And for the first time in years, I meant it.